episode of My Mic Sounds Nice, we discuss COVID. As COVID-19 infection rates hit records in parts of the country, are we about to face another lockdown? And recently, Future said he's more popular than Jay-Z in the streets, and Jay-Z responded to the entire industry. We'll share our thoughts on that. Then we'll close it out with the Robertson Report.
Welcome to My Mic Sounds Nice, a freestyle conversation about health, relationships, and culture. I am one of your hosts, Timothy Jones, always glad to be in the building.
Welcome to My Mic Sounds Nice. This is Kevin, a.k.a. Reggie Jacks, coming from the Bronx. Welcome.
My mic sounds nice. This is Aaron from Long Island. What's good, folks?
The holiday season, bro.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to the world.
Merry Christmas to the world. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy holidays. And COVID said I still have a seat at the table. What's really good?
That's
right. I'm
right.
telling you, COVID is like herpes, man. It keeps coming, but like we can't get away from it. We can't even stop talking about it. It's like, yo, man.
It won't go away. So, in this third season of COVID,
Yes.
in this third season of the COVID-19 Chronicles, we end the year like we started it, in a surge. The Omicron variant is more contagious than the previous ones, while vaccine hesitancy and people's refusal to participate in any of the mitigation strategies has just continued this pandemic with a nightmare which just seems not to want to go away. Is a lockdown coming, or are we just going to have to learn how to live with it?
Well, I can say this Omicron variant seemingly is causing more breakthrough infections than Delta did. And of course, when Alpha was here, there weren't vaccines. So I don't know how that, I think that will make us have to adjust, but I just don't see us going back to a total lockdown. Because truthfully, our care for people is so short-lived. You know what I mean? That it's like that first time when we shut down, everybody was extending grace. I remember people banging on pots for the health workers. But now, based upon choices that people are making, it's like, where's the love for the health workers? Where's the concern for your neighbors and the like? It's about money. So I don't see us shutting down.
Well, I think the answer to that question is probably both. That we're gonna have to learn to live with it, and a shutdown is possible. And the only way I think it's highly unlikely because of the political climate and Republicans and the way they respond. If you watch Fox News, they're already talking about draconian measures right now. So they would consider another lockdown a draconian measure at the least. But I think if we overflow the hospitals, if we really have a situation where the healthcare system is stressed to the point where it can't respond, then you may see short lockdowns for a week or a couple of weeks, but nothing like 3 months like we had in 2020. But if I was betting money, I'd have to say no, because I just think the political will and the fact that there's an election next September.
I'm about to say that those midterms would be crazy.
Yeah, October or whatever it is. Yeah, it's unlikely.
You know, it's but when I say learning to live with it, and in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, except for the 800,000 people that have already died.
Yeah, man.
And the numbers will obviously continue to go up as more and more people get infected. Hopefully, Omicron is not as dangerous or not as deadly as the previous variants. You know, but time will tell. But just when things get overloaded, that's when it's a problem. Whenever I look at the chart of just kind of deaths and everything, and I think back to the number of deaths that we had in in early 2020 was when we didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have enough materials. Now that we have all these materials and we keep coming back to this high infection rate, it's just crazy. You're right. There is no political will to shut it down. In the Netherlands, they're shut down until January 14th. They're shutting down all of the Netherlands. Nobody's going outside. In China, where the Olympics are, they're shutting down until February 1st. They're basically shutting down into the Olympics.
Yeah. It's only
Xi'an,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I said in Xi'an, like 13 million people. So, certain parts of the world are willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, it's only America. It's only America where we politicize healthcare. I mean, it's absurd. In England, the prime minister said, go and have your normal Christmas, but we could be shut down in February. So they've instituted measures again of, wearing a mask in public and some other measures we're all familiar with, but they don't have an issue with locking down. They don't have an issue, and like you said, you name all those other countries, Kevin. Most countries have sense that this is a healthcare issue. It's only America where we politicize things like climate change and health.
And real quick to that point, I work in schools here in the city, and in public schools. There are schools where a 6 through 12 school where only one grade was attending this last couple of days heading into the break because everybody's quarantined. This grade's quarantined, that grade's quarantined, and yet we're not shutting down these buildings. And, it's all politics. It's a danger when politics are going to determine our health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think about all of the other social ills that shutting down and the pandemic unearthed that really haven't been adequately addressed. That in some ways the Build Back Better was to address a lot of those social ills. And right now, that's dead in the water. So it just really shows.
Joe mentioned it, the punk.
It just really shows. Punk jump up to get beat down. It just really shows where people's hearts really are.
Yeah.
It's like I said, we tend as a society to experience fatigue when it comes to being compassionate really, really quick. That our compassion gets replaced by capitalism really, really quick.
I mean, that's a great point, what you made too, Tim.
So that's just where I feel it is. It just reveals where it kind of and I'm making political references strategically. Like Biden was running talking about the soul of the nation.
Yeah.
Let's really talk about the soul of the nation, given the condition that certain individuals are in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a certain segment of society which, if it doesn't happen to them, they don't fully recognize it or acknowledge it.
No doubt.
The pain has to touch them physically. They have to do it, so
I think most Americans. Kev, I think that's a absolute American point, but I think that's almost most Americans. I mean, we don't accept other cultures well. The majority culture doesn't accept, minority cultures in America very well. We're the country telling you to speak English. We don't want you speaking other languages. We're not very accepting of except for the things that we know here. But there's 50 million people who are unvaccinated in this country. Dr. Fauci was mentioning that. And, when you hear the numbers and you're like, oh, it's 70% vaccinated or whatever the current number is, that sounds like a lot of people. And it makes you feel like, wow, that's a good number. But when you look at the other side of how many millions and millions of people that aren't vaccinated, 50 million is a huge number, man. you could fill up and overwhelm hospitals very easily with that number. And on top of that, people are getting sick more than once.
Yeah.
So if you can get COVID and then get COVID again, like we were talking earlier in the week when the guy who died, who had COVID twice and wasn't vaccinated either time, a lot of these people think they've been through it and it's okay. Second time, you might not be so lucky. And don't let the Omicron variant, don't let us have another variant that's more deadly.
Yes.
Because that's killing people in a much more aggressive way. And that's just as likely as us having a weak variant, we could have a more deadly variant.
Yeah, and to your point, it's not as if that 50 million is evenly spread. You know what I mean? Because it's not like, it's 1 million per state. No, that 50 million is skewed. So there's certain parts of the country where there are more unvaccinated people than others, and so that impacts travel and just how business is done. And there's also this feeling of we feel like we're owed this sense of normalcy, that as Omicron was presenting itself, man, I'm not changing my Christmas plans. They're saying without saying, I'm owed to have Christmas the way that I want to because I didn't have it last year.
Yeah.
Which totally goes against the real meaning of Christmas. That is a very selfish statement in a season that really is supposed to be selfless and about goodwill towards men. And I'm not even going on a religious bent, but just a societal bent.
Yes.
That's normally the time where the hellos are just a little like our shoulder and our head nods are a little bit more animated during this time of year.
Peace on earth, goodwill towards all.
Like it's like, you know what, dog? I hated you the other 11 and a half months, but like, peace to you and your fam.
I find that even shopping for Christmas, I find it kind of ironic because we all go to the mall to, get gifts for our loved ones, people we care about, and then we're cutting each other off in the parking lot to get out because it's so crowded in there. It's like, acting evil towards each other. Will you get out of my way? Like,
But you're nice inside the stores.
Exactly.
There's like conversations and things taking place inside stores.
Yeah. It's like, and don't cut me off. Don't cut me off to get out that parking lot.
Don't steal my parking spot. I've been looking for 15 minutes, man. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah.
It's a shame, man. It's a shame.
And we'll be setting it off with our kids holding our hand, looking at us like, God bless us all.
Dad, you're not going to be on Santa's, you're going to be on the naughty list.
Be like, Tiny Tim got to give a deposition.
Yo. Yeah, man. But no, go ahead, Kev.
I was going to, in looking, I came across something in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago. Have you guys ever heard of the Great Barrington Declaration?
Nah. What's that?
Break it down.
It's this thing that came out this dude from Stanford, epidemiologists and doctors from all across the world, and they talked about they were opposed to lockdowns. This came out in October 2020, and they were like, lockdowns are bad. It has poor mental health impacts and all these other things, and they recommend just really protecting the elderly, since that's the majority of the people that die, and just kind of let infections run amok and let it run through, and we'll have we'll reach herd immunity.
Okay.
I've noticed that the reason it popped back up is because they understand that a lockdown is possibly on the table. We know there's going to have discussions about it, although politically we know, and it's just coming back, and people are using that again. And there was some emails that Fauci had talked about it where he was going against it. So now they're starting to kind of bring this back up. And I just want to say, again, the science, if you went by their science where they said everybody would be infected, we'd have the disease, then we'd reach herd immunity. And as Aaron just mentioned, the people that are catching it twice, obviously that's not the case. No one is really understanding the science. The science is going to continue to change, adjust as we learn more. So what we know today is not what we're going to know tomorrow, and things may change. And I think we have to accept that and stop thinking of people as saying, well, the scientists are wrong or the scientists don't even know what's going on.
You're right, Kev. You're right. It's laymen trying to say what science should be. Science is an evolving, learning thing, man. And no, Fauci's not wrong because he said something different in January of 2020. You make your estimates and your assumptions based upon the evidence that you have at the time.
Yeah.
So that's what politics gets back in it, Kev, because they do that in politics all the time. If you're wrong, they harp on it. But in science, it's totally different. So I'm glad you brought that up because
and so much of science is based on observation. In order for you to observe, something has to happen. I mean, it's the same way if you think about meteorologists. They're basically giving you a prediction based on a level of observation, informed by certain patterns of things that have happened in the past, but it's still open for anomalies. It's still open for we thought it was going to do this, but then in the last minute, it turned and went this way. Okay, you had Alpha, then Delta. So you're trying to battle Delta, then Omicron comes along. What's to say that there won't be another strand that will take on certain attributes and be more? But in the midst of it, but then you can ask yourself, okay, would Omicron be as contagious if we really reached what they wanted to say herd? If we were 85% vaccinated, because that full vaccinated amount is really in the 60s. And then now there's a lag in people even getting boosted, because for some, they're saying you need a booster. It's like, oh, see, I told you the vaccine didn't work. So you got all of this happening while people are dying. And Aaron, I know you can empathize, and we all can. This doesn't mean that all of the other health issues that are disproportionately plaguing certain aspects of our population, they don't stop.
Yep.
Like heart disease and diabetes and obesity, everything that we've been fighting with, they're not on the bench because COVID just gets the ESPN top 10 highlights. But it doesn't mean that these other diseases are not on the field making buckets and causing havoc.
Yeah. But last thing I'll say is, Kev, I really want to get back to, bigging up your point, because if we take away anything from this, y'all, stop doing your layman thinking when it comes to science and thinking that because things evolve, that's wrong. That is the process of scientists. So what you're witnessing is it happening in the public, and it's not wrong. So when you see politicians exploit that, understand it for what it is, because it's not people being incorrect. It's evidence growing and changing, which is why with the Omicron variant, they still haven't come out and said it's less deadly, even though the evidence they have so far suggests that. But it's early evidence, so no reputable scientist has come out and said, oh, we know it's less deadly. They won't know that for months.
Yeah.
They may not be really sure for a couple of years. So,
Kev, that's a brilliant point, but I also think we live in a society where honestly we've been lied to and things have been withheld and covered up for so long. It's almost like the little boy that cried wolf. That it's like with that one time where there really is a wolf, like there's really something there. It's like, can I really trust you? And in some instances, even when I see what you're talking about to be true, but because deem you to be so dishonest, it's hard to take it at face value. So
yeah, but there's a lot of people looking for the things they believe in already. So they already
confirmation bias is real.
Yeah, confirmation bias is the word I was looking for. There's a lot of confirmation bias going on. A friend of mine was like, "I told you the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was no good for the Omicron variant." It's like, yo, my brother, the Omicron variant wasn't even here when they created that vaccination. Like, you're looking to be proven right because you don't want to get a shot. Like, that stuff gotta stop.
Yeah, I mean, overall, as we kind of head to the season, if we hit this surge, just please make sure that you do all the mitigation, social distancing, whatever possible. Wear your mask, get that booster. If you get the booster, get your shot, get your shots. Please protect yourself. There's nothing worse than the people that you see on their deathbed, the people that have died, and saying, "I'm going to get my shot, or can you please give me the vaccine?" It's no way to go out.
Yeah. If I see one more story of someone who wasn't vaccinated, who's dying, saying, "I wish I was vaccinated," if that don't teach you something, I don't know.
All right.
No doubt. So do what you do. Stay healthy. Get through this season. Keep your mask close to you. Keep washing those hands and not touching your face. And those are good habits anyway. So
yeah. And if we have another lockdown, do it better the second time.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
All right. So you come at the king, you best not miss. In 2017, Future took his mask off and rapped about his affinity for Percocet and Molly. In 2021, Future declared he was more popular than Jay-Z in the streets, and he would run up on a B or $1 billion real soon. A few days later in an interview, Jay-Z said no one can stand on him in the stage in a versus battle. Are Jay-Z and Future onto something? Are they saying something? Or are they both high on their own supply?
Future's still on that Percocet and Molly. Future's on You must be crazy.
So I think that first thing, there, what would be, we're all caterers in our own right. What would be that working definition of what street? Because he particularly was like, "Yo, I'm more street than Jay. I'm bigger in the streets." And so, if the streets represent ignorance versus insight, then Future's right.
Yeah.
But if street represents, you think about NWA, where it's like, yo, they started off that classic Straight Outta Compton, like you're about to witness the strength of street knowledge. So it's incomparable, the knowledge that Jay has given from a street perspective as he's grown over these past 25 years from Reasonable Doubt up to today. So first thing is, who's defining street?
And it's also, it's one of those things that it's really a foolish statement anyway, because Jay-Z is not, he's not trying to fourth quarter Michael Jordan the rap game right now. He's not doing that. He's doing other things because he's a billionaire. He probably cares more about buying the NFL team than he ever cared about another album other than his own personal enjoyment. I think Jay-Z is at the point now where he'll make music when he wants to make music. So is he the hottest in the street? No, because he's not. He's done what Future is doing right now. He's been there. He's accomplished that. He's conquered that. So are you in a place that right now more young people know you and you're more popular, in terms of popular music? Yeah, you are. But why? Not because it's because you're better than Jay-Z, but you're at different points in your life. And the idea that you're going to get $1 billion, it's that shows me he has no clue, none. I mean, he has no clue what it takes to make $1 billion, none. He must think it's really easy because he sees other billionaires, but there's a reason that Russell Simmons wasn't a billionaire, or Puffy. It's easy to, I shouldn't say it's easy, but it's much more attainable to get a few $100 million than it is to take it from 300 or 400 million to $1 billion. It's a lot more difficult. 50 Cent ain't a billionaire. And he got shows all over the television.
I would wonder if he's even at a couple of 100 million future, but we'll see. There's so many thoughts that came to my mind. One thing that we always talk about in hip hop, and we've been having this conversation for years, is kind of reverence for what came before you. So the word of the day is reverence.
Yeah.
Treat something with deep respect.
Can you say reverence, children?
And you, Future, couldn't be Future, couldn't make the money that he's making without Jay-Z and the other pioneers coming before him.
Yeah.
Jay-Z could not do that, what he did, without Run DMC and the people that came before them. Run DMC would not be able to do that without Sugar Hill Records and the Grandmaster Flash, Curtis Blow, and all those other things. Obviously, as people go on, people may be better. The rhymes today, of course, are 10 times better, or the patterns and things are way better than what we had in the past. But
some of them.
Some. Right.
Majority of them. But
Right. But I mean, I'm only saying that to say it's like in sports. The athletes of today are better than the athletes of yesterday, no matter how we want to put it. Now, whether they were better players, team concept, whatever, all that is different. But they have the ability to be better. I'm just saying, show the reverence for what came before you. And hip hop seems to be the only artistic thing in music where we do that. Nobody's sitting here talking trash about John Coltrane or Thelonious Monk. Nobody's sitting here talking trash about the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or these other things. But sometime in hip hop, we always consistently do this, and we allow this to happen. I got a whole bunch of other rants, but I'm gonna end that first part of the rant on that.
You never heard New Edition like poo-pooing on the Temptations.
Yeah. We did our steps better. We did that folded hand down better than Temptations ever could.
Exactly. We hit our nights like this better than yours. But it takes me back to Jay's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame speech, where all of those predecessors that he acknowledged what he pulled from them, which is part of that legacy work. Of course, he's more wealthy. He's sold more records, but he was operating from that standpoint of reverence. And that, to me, is the lesson that really should be passed down. You can't deny there are certain places and spaces that hip hop now is regarded where before Jay, it wasn't.
Yeah.
We could argue and say whether it's a good or bad thing, but if we're just speaking growth over time and exposure, that it's like, yo, come on. And so at some point, we have to expand how our culture is viewed and not continue just to give street this power that is just universal. That, okay, even what came from the streets, it still is how you define it in street. So I love the reverence word, and I'm gonna hold on to that street word, because we're in our 50s, we've grown up with hip hop. I don't want to be in the same street with the same mindset that I had 30 years ago, but I still want to have a connection.
Yes.
Because I want to be able to connect and build, and I want them to see me. You know what I mean? Like we all kind of found our way through manhood with limited examples, but we're in a position to be a much brighter light to the young people who are in our lives, whether related or not, to show them. Like, that to me is what hip hop has done, and that should be regarded and revered. So,
you know, Future just mad that Jay-Z said in the future other Negroes playing football with your son. You know, that's what he's
we need a Funk Flex bomb right there.
His feelings are hurt. And one more thing. Yo, Future released his first major album in 2012. You know how many albums Jay-Z has released since 2012? 2.
Yeah.
The Magna Carta 444. He's not even rap.
Yeah, honestly, I'm telling you, it's clear Jay's at a point where he releases the album when he wants to, when he has something artistic to say. I mean, he's not getting rich off of his albums. He probably makes more money off of some of the art he's bought than an album release, man. Like, it's just foolish to for him to think that he can even compare. And it's a shame, you know, I know you said, Kev, no other art does this. What's even worse is that when Puffy was coming up, when Jay was coming up, they showed reverence to Russell Simmons and Def Jam. They all went to, regardless of what you think of Russell Simmons and his personal thing, just speaking in the industry, he was the person that these guys all went and talked to. Irv Gotti, you know, they all went and talked to Leo. They all went and talked to Russell. They all went and talked to L.A. Reid. You know, there was hey, you guys are moguls. Help me be bigger than I am. And Future should really be, you know, like, yo, Jay, how do I get to that next step? Because if you want meaningless crowns, I'm more street than Jay-Z, you can have that. But what you can't feed your kids with that. You know,
you can't feed your 8 kids.
It ain't good. Whoa, I didn't even know that. Shots fired.
You feed 8 kids, 8 different parents, but you know, 8 different moms, but you know.
Are you lying? Are you serious, bro?
But you know, you do what you do. Here's what I'm gonna say about just
he's not some old dirty bastard.
He's some
old baby.
But I'm like, you know, you can't work so hard in your life. Like, we work hard to get where we are, to do these things and to grow. You can't work so hard and stay the same. It doesn't work like that. You can't, like, why would you even still want to be in the streets?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's kind of like back to that drill stuff. Like, why would you, you know, you finally making money, you should be thinking, yo, I gotta change my circumstances.
Because if you know the streets, you know that having money in the streets don't mix.
Yeah. No. You know, you always have opposition to your success. It's better to have it in the people from the boardroom than people from, you know, the alleyway with the AK. So
it's better to let the lawyers fight it out.
Exactly. You know, I don't know. I'll tell you this. I was glad Jay-Z said what he said about verses. I think he's probably right too.
Let's get into that.
Let's go there. So Jay basically said that no one could stand in front of him on a versus stage.
Nobody.
He even went as far and pulled out the Grammy Live freestyle. Like, y'all haven't even seen me do that live. And that was some joint he did, I think, back in 2017 with Flex on Hot 97.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what say you about that? I mean, the internet response, some people were saying LL. There was some people who were listing how Wayne could do it. So what say y'all?
I say I say a couple of things. One, the first thing is, I've seen Jay-Z in concert probably 3 or 4 times. And I've been to plenty of hip hop concerts. Jay-Z is the first artist I've ever seen on stage with his songs loaded up on a drum machine, and him on stage play a song and go, nope. Play the next song, go, nope. And they were number ones, they were hits, you were nodding your head to him, and he was like, nope, I'm not doing that. And go through that, and then he get to the right song that he felt like doing, and then he performed that. And the whole show he did that. And he skipped over so many classics, so many great joints, that I was like, yo, this guy, and this was probably 2008 maybe he did that. His catalog is bananas. He'd have a hard time picking 20 songs. Hard time picking 20 songs. And then you have the freestyle rap. So I think he destroys Future in that. Absolutely just beats them down if they start going at each other rhyme for rhyme, because it ain't going to be about that singing. And then no, without that auto tune, nothing. Then the grand closing is you bring out guests. He brings out Beyonce. It's over. There is no response to that. Versus is a response thing, back and forth. He can't, unless he can roll out Michael Jackson's casket, he loses. Like, it's over.
Oh, man. I think that, now I've seen Jay a bunch of times. I've seen him back in the day. Like, I'm talking about going back to when he was with the Originators on the stage. I've seen him many places, back when he used to rock with the bulletproof vest up in the Palladium and stuff like that.
And we saw him with him and Foxy. We didn't even.
Nobody was even paying attention to him.
Yeah,
it was doing ain't no end, and it was like, yeah, whatever. And we paid for that.
Yeah,
at the conference.
Like, yo, let's go to another stage. Let's watch another show.
But
so we've seen the evolution.
Yeah, Versus is a particular thing, and I understand people saying, yeah, well, Lil Wayne, under the Versus format, Lil Wayne can bring energy that could possibly match him. But, like, the reality is he can't. I heard they talked about Busta. There's like, yo, Busta could do it. Fat Joe said nobody wants to do a Versus against Busta. But, they kind of rolled this out as Jay-Z said this, but Fat Joe said this back in September. I mean...
Fat Joe said what?
Nobody wants to do a Versus against Busta.
After Jay said that, or before?
They started publicizing it, but he said it before. But now they're putting it out, clickbaity things. They put it out there to make it seem like it's in response to that. But yeah, you're right, A. I can't see anybody. No one can touch him. Like, it's just sit down. Go for second place. I know Drake people are going to be like, nah, you wrong. But, go for second.
A couple of things, like you said, especially now, people might have had a better chance before the Versus format evolved to performance. Because early Versus, you're just playing your songs.
Yeah.
I think Jay is in a class by himself on the clarity of his performance. It is nothing short of masterful. And to your point, I'll take it even further. Until you give me an artist who could do 2 full-length concerts of B-sides, those be some of the best concerts. Like, they're B-sides. For those who may be listening and young, B-sides are the songs that were not commercially released. You don't have videos for these songs, but they are just hits in the streets, Future. So my man did part 1 and part 2 of that catalog. So that catalog alone, and then as you said, at some point now with the performance style versus you bring out guests, the internet would break.
Yeah.
Would it like all they would need to do is Crazy in Love? They wouldn't even have to start doing like the Carter stuff.
Yeah. She might not even have to sing.
Yeah, like, if she just walked out with 4 other women behind her,
Yeah.
and just did the it's over. Now, you know, because I was thinking about Drake, because with him getting the Billboard Artist of the Decade, like Drake got hits.
He does.
But it would be interesting to see. I think Drake over Lil Wayne.
Oh, I agree with that. The reason I think Jay, and you kind of touched on it, Tim, Jay has always been, in his performances since day one, a guy who thinks about his show and thinks about it deeply. You know, with bringing out Michael Jackson. I mean, who thinks of a rapper bring out Michael Jackson to Summer Stage? I can't even imagine that. It's like they must have put a blindfold on Mike the whole way as they took him past all these blunt smoking rappers. Like, Mike, don't look to your left. Like, you know, just ignore all of these criminals with guns. The guy brought out Michael Jackson on Summer Stage, man. You know, from the well-known Prodigy thing to his guest appearances to going on tour with Mary. He doesn't just do a show. He crafts like individual pieces of art. Even him performing at the MoMA, you know, with no music, just responding to people, looking at them in their face, rapping to them. He thinks about his performances. And so you give him a versus and you say, hey, you're going up against this guy or that artist, there's no way in the world that he doesn't think hard and come out with a show that would be greater than the next person.
It's not going to be a clear the stage, we can't go on.
Oh, no. I mean, no. I don't even think he could do it. Knowing Jay, he probably make it so the artists each had their own separate stage on different parts of the arena because I don't want to stand on the same place as you.
He's socially distanced and it has nothing to do with COVID. and in between every song, it would just be that drop. I will not lose.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Drake, Does
he have to boom back, Tim? Does Drake have to boom back?
No, I mean, that would be the thing. Like, it would really be about kind of like just what your ear is. It would be fun to see because it also would just show that diversity of Jay, that like he could give you that boom back. He give you that I'm gonna have Mary singing, and then I'm doing this over here, and then I'm making joints for movies. Like, it would just be so crazy of where he could go. You know,
like imagine he would do that and bring out like Kanye for Otis. It'd be over.
Yeah.
So like, Kev, what? If you had to pick one person to go up against him, who had the best shot? You think Jay will win, but who has the best shot against him? Is it L? Is it Drake? You think it don't matter?
I don't think it matters. I don't think L, because most of L's stuff is a little too old to I mean, I could see Lil Wayne on the stage, depending on which Lil Wayne you get, what state Lil Wayne is in.
Yeah, I hope you don't have the plastic cup with him, man.
Like you know, if there's Lil Wayne with a red cup.
So I'm going to say something. I'm going to give a name. And as you said, it's like they would lose, but they would show. and I'm ready for all of the fire coming back. Rick Ross.
Woo! You sure he won't get tired performing on stage?
No, I'm saying a new, having lost weight, a new focused Rick Ross. Because remember, we're only going 20.
I can see it. I can see
it. And I'm not saying that Rick Ross would win. I'm just speaking to your question.
Yeah.
He could be competitive.
Where he could be competitive because his music, he could have joints that would hit all the categories. He's going to give you some joints for the thugs. He's going to give you some joints for the ladies. I personally think in the development of songs, in a lot of ways, Rick Ross is underrated. Part of that is because the whole notion of the name and this, that, and the other. But we're just speaking in catalog for 20 songs. Yeah, I'm gonna throw out Rick Ross.
You know what? I think, as I think about that, I think that if you just think about them and playing albums, I think that I understand your point. But I think it would be one of those things, like almost like a boxing match where you see two guys. Perfect example: Ricky Hatton and Floyd Mayweather. And you're like, okay, they're both undefeated, and you're like, all right. And then Ricky Hatton gets in the ring, and it's like, you don't even belong in the same arena with this dude. I think the gulf would show quickly in terms of the type of show Jay would craft and the professionalism. I think Rick would do it, but he'd be playing checkers and Jay would be playing chess. I think he would probably bring out all his Maybach people and do, some of them joints, some college joints. Although Khaled might stay out of the way. He might not.
I think it may bring the best out of Rick Ross.
Yeah.
For a moment.
Yeah.
Because, if you know you're standing next to Jay.
Yeah.
You would have to do everything in your power to give the best performance of your life, knowing that still may not be enough.
Yeah.
But you will want people walking away like, yo.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Buster could give a show that people would dig. And we're just saying who could put up a good show, but probably still lose. Buster, Drake. I don't think that Wayne would be focused enough to do the show detail stuff that would be needed. I don't think he would go in that hard. I think he would be thinking, oh, this is enough. Where Jay-Z he'd have the whole team working on this show for a month before it happened. So I think that Wayne probably has the hits, but wouldn't execute it properly. I think LL Cool J could do it, Kev, because I think the people who would turn in would be LL fans. So I think LL could give hold his head. But that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Who you got, Kev?
Lil Wayne and Drake. I mean, Rick Ross, now that you mentioned, because I'm not a Rick Ross fan, I rarely think of Rick Ross. But he does have a catalog enough to be able to be competitive on the stage.
For 20.
For
not
20.
21.
Yeah.
She's like, falls off the cliff at 21.
Like, there's no overtime. We'll leave it.
Yeah. For L, I just think it's too much of a different era to be able to compete.
I think that what's the name? The fact that Kane held up as well as he did with KRS-One shows me that anybody can make things competitive if they do things right. Because KRS-One should have won that easily in turn because of the catalog. So you never know, but taking all things into account and the bringing out the Beyonce and them doing some of their hits and Drunken Love and stuff. Oh my goodness, it's over.
So now I would say, I know you had mentioned, like, if this was just going to be a versus show of shows, and if there was no repercussions afterwards, Ross could, like with Khaled, there would be some moments.
If Khaled,
no, that's
I'm gonna get involved.
I was given the preference that that if Jay is pulling all stops, for his 20, and so to the point where, like I said, there's no, because Jay also can be petty. So there's no repercussions to alliances, but just like, yo, you put together the best 20 you could put to bring. There's some
Khaled got to be involved in that.
With Ross, that it'll be like, all right, like I said, the throne, the hands of the throne ain't changing, but it would be an entertaining watch. And
they do at least 3 posse cuts.
And I would agree with you. I think the thing with L is, it's interesting. Like, their ages aren't that different, but their musical eras and peaks are so far apart that there would have to be someone who, for the most part, has been rocking this side of like 2005, 2010, so that the audiences, could rock. Because to really appreciate L, you got to be 38 plus. I mean, or just a fan of the culture.
I think L would hold up better than y'all think. I'm not because he's LL. And I think Hey Lover would bang. Even though that's 94. I think I think he'd do better than y'all think.
Well, speaking of the versus stage, we need to get off the My Mic Sounds Nice stage.
No doubt.
Because nobody can stand up to us either. We got hits.
We got hits.
Yes.
All right. So
and we get hit.
We get hit. So we're gonna hit it. We're gonna end things out with the Robinson Report. I'm gonna go first. I'm a story time. Not much of a story, but I do have a thing, but it's a little bit of a story. All right. So about 3 years ago, I was in a meeting with a bunch of families that where our kids were all participating in this Rite to Passage program. So we're sharing different stories and things about our lives, personal stories. One parent gets up and she starts talking about how just kind of her relationships, how she found love of her life. They got married, they had a child. Her husband was a soldier in Iraq. He was writing a journal to their son. Unfortunately, he was killed in Iraq. And as she's telling the story, I'm like, man, that's an incredible story. Turns out she was a New York Times journalist, and she wrote this book, A Journal for Jordan. A Journal for Jordan by Dana Kennedy. So, and it's basically about their life story, about how her husband was a soldier in Iraq and was killed, and he wrote this journal for his son every day while he was alive over there, his newborn son. So there's the book that came out back in 2008. It's starring, now there's a movie that's came out starring Michael B. Jordan that's directed by Denzel Washington. And a fun fact about Dana Kennedy, she's also used to be the administrator for the Pulitzer Award, and she was on the board when Kendrick Lamar won. So there's the intersection, hip hop, culture, Robinson Report. Check out A Journal for Jordan.
No doubt. HBO has a music documentary series called Music Box. And the latest episode is called Juice WRLD Abyss. And on this show, we often talk about hip hop, and we talk about trying to develop and increase our understanding on the different generations. And it's a brilliantly done documentary, because for the most part, it's Juice WRLD himself, just with cameras and tracking his rise and sadly his untimely death. But in watching it, you will get a level of understanding as to how a generation feels, especially around mental health and hope, and in some instances, hopelessness. So this is more of a watch as a window in than watch this and you'll be entertained. Like, you need to watch this so that you can have a better understanding of how millions are feeling. Because this young man has some songs that has billions of streams. And he really started in 2017. He died in 2019. He's had 2 posthumous albums. So it's called Juice WRLD Abyss, and it's on HBO and HBO Max.
Yeah, I think I saw that a few days ago. It was really kind of powerful. And I think Bill Simmons is behind, might be executive producer of that.
Yes.
But yeah, so my Robinson Report is really a support of, like, my brother Tim and my brother Sam Fair, is a support of independent authors. So I want to give a shout out to an author I know, a good young brother named Dante Long. He has 2 books out. I'm going to suggest them both to you. Would be okay for a late Christmas present. First is When Good Men Go Bad. Just to let you know, it's on Amazon. It's got a 4.5-star rating. So I'm not just pushing a book, and it's not worth the mention. So check that out. And it's a series about some young black men at a historically black college. And he has a second book also. So I want you to read first When Good Men Go Bad, and then the soul's motivation is the second book. So check that out.
No doubt.
Definitely.
Well, brothers, another one from Deep.
Yes.
Curry for the 3.
Yeah. Future, do your thing. You rocking. You in a good place. You need a new accountant if you want to get to $1 billion, because you won't do it through music.
The truth is, my mic sounds nice. We're as old as the Lakers, but we play like the Warriors.
No doubt. That's right. My mic sounds nice. This is A signing off.
My mic sounds nice. This is Kev.
My mic sounds nice. This is Tim. Till next time, sink or swim, y'all. Peace.
Peace.